Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 3, The Beginning of the End. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Picard, so I have to start with a spoiler warning for Picard up to Season 1, Episode 3. If you haven't seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, sorry I'm a bit late with this video. I am traveling again, and kind of like I did with episode 1 where I recorded a review by the lake. I'm here by the ocean side, so I thought I'd record another review there, but there was too much wind and the audio was unusable. So this is round 2 when I'm recording back in my hotel room, but I decided, since I want to share my vacation, I took some videos of where I'm at, which is quite a beautiful place, and it's on my camera, so the footage is quite shaky or whatever, and it's not the best, it's always out of focus, but I thought I'd put this up as a screensaver rather than some random picture of space like I usually do. Anywho, getting to Picard, which is why you're here. I don't know, I thought this was probably the weaker episode of the 3, the weakest so far. I didn't think it was a terrible episode, but I thought it was very cliche. It felt standard, I guess is the best way to put it particularly, because I talked about in my review of episode 1 how it didn't feel like a typical pilot where it's like, here's this guy and here's this guy. In episode 2 I talked about how it felt a bit more like that, and this episode 3, I think felt even more like that. It felt the most like that, particularly with the introduction of the, I don't have his name in front of me, but the captain guy or the pilot guy who has the ship, he comes across as a very standard, like Han Solo type, or just like someone who's very disenfranchised with the system, and he's gone rogue, and he's very down on himself, and he doesn't care about anybody. I mean, we've seen this stereotype a lot. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, other shows have done really interesting things with that archetype, and perhaps this show will as well. But so far, he's coming off as more of your stereotypical cliche, oh, I'm a loner guy. Now, they could do more with him in the future, and I hope that they do. But for this episode, I don't think it was the best introduction to this character, because the introduction was pretty by the numbers, particularly that conversation that he had with Picard, and about how he doesn't like Starfleet and he doesn't work with anyone. It wasn't terrible. I mean, I liked when Picard said, oh, he recognized that he was Starfleet through and through. There's room for development there, but there wasn't much in this particular episode. Now, and Raffi is another character who I'm not really a fan of her so far. I probably think she's worse because they have less room to improve with her, because she's already so developed and yet so cliche. I don't know, I just find it hard to swallow, because Picard is a character we know, we care about, we follow, we're very familiar with Picard. Now we're asked to buy that there's this other character that Picard has known for a long time that we don't know, and there's this big backstory and history between these two characters, and I have a hard time caring about that. Because it has nothing to do with what we've seen before. Now, maybe this could have been easier sold if Picard was a new character, but he's not. And that's just a fact. And so the fact is, when you try to say, oh, Picard had this long-standing relationship with this person, they're enemies, you're just telling all this to me. Now, granted, they did have that little scene at the start of the episode that showed what they were like when they were together, which was good, but again, something that would have worked for a character we were unfamiliar with. I still have a hard time buying her. Now, it's not just that, though. It's the fact that her relationship is very cliche by the numbers. She's the character who's at odds, who has a bone to pick, and they're rivals. Like, this is another cliche that we've seen in shows all the time. And I would have a much better time swallowing this cliche if it was a character we were already familiar with. Because on top of this being the same old thing we've seen before, we're asked to swallow this whole backstory. Now, what I mean by swallow, I mean, it's not that I don't believe it, it's that I don't care. Because it's stuff that all took place off screen. But anyway, yeah, her introduction, I really, yeah, the way she was arguing with Picard, I really didn't find interesting. Although I did like that opening scene. It is interesting. I don't know. I find it kind of annoying that they filmed at Vasquez Rocks, which is a place in California where they filmed a whole bunch of classic Star Trek episodes in the original series episodes, Arena, Alternative Factor, I think, and Next Generation did Who Watches the Watchers, and there's all these other things. So when the people heard, oh, they're filming Vasquez Rocks, it's like, ooh, what are we doing? Are we going to revisit Cetrus 3? Are we going to revisit, although it wasn't filmed in Cetrus 3, but I'm not going to get down that rabbit hole. It was actually the Metron planet. But regardless, are they going to show at the random Metron planet, or we're going to see Mintaka 3? But no, it just says Vasquez Rocks in the subtitle. So that actually she lives at the place where all those classic episodes of Star Trek were filmed. Poof, my head's exploding. That annoyed me for some reason. I don't know. I think it's petty of me, maybe, but I'm just like, really? You're going to go to this classic location that could be any known planet that we've seen as other planets and just call it what it is? I mean, why not just film in the studio where they filmed the Enterprise and say Studio B? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe that's not a good, that's not a good comparison or straight up comparison, but I don't know. To me, it's kind of along those lines. But anyway, getting sidetracked now. So I wasn't a big fan of the Hugh stuff either. I was really hoping for something different from him. I was hoping he'd be like a renegade, or he'd find out what the Romulans are doing and be totally against it. But here we find out that he's the director of the project, and he's working with the Romulans because the Borg cube that they're studying is in Romulan space. So I don't know. I just find it weird because there's obviously aliens of many different races, species working together, like these humans and whatnot. But I kind of find it hard to believe that the Romulans would actually work with Hugh. I don't know. Because aren't they supposed to hate all synthetic life, and Hugh was synthetic? And they didn't, because last time we saw Hugh, he looked completely Borgified. So I don't know. I hope they get into his backstory, because also he was the leader of all those rogue Borgs on that planet. So I hope they get into the backstory of what happened to him. So again, they could make this better if they explain it more and they do something interesting with it. But my first impressions was not very favorable of how they used Hugh. However, Soji, on the other hand, I think she was one of the really best parts of the episode. Her whole storyline of trying to find out about the Borg, or the Romulans that used to be Borg, that are trying to regain their lives. And it's interesting that they played it like they were mentally disabled. It almost seemed like a mental hospital scene, which is a different take on those who have been liberated from the Borg. Because with Iborg, they played it like it was like a lost puppy that didn't really know what's going on. And with the gift from Voyager, with 7 of 9, they played it like she was going through heroin withdrawals. So this is yet another interpretation where it's almost like a mental institution type dealy. That's interesting. I like that. I like the different takes on it. I think that was pretty interesting. And of course, like the scene we get with her, where that Romulan starts freaking out and he's saying all this shit that she shouldn't know, like, are you the one that's dead or are you the one that lives, and shit like that. Like, that was really interesting. Now, it's hard to say exactly how good this was because it depends on what the follow-up is to it. If they fail to follow through with what all the mysteries are setting up here, then it might not be that good. But as setup, it is really good. It really has me hooked. It really works. I thought it was really interesting. Now, I really am interested when Soji called her mom, quote unquote, because obviously that's not her mom. I mean, there's theories that her mom never existed, and that she was just memories implanted in her mind, and so the image she sees is like some fake holographic image that someone else is using to communicate with her, which I think is spot on. I think that's definitely the case, because I was really interested in the first episode when the mom saying go to Picard, and now the mom is clearly lying to Soji, saying that Raj is still alive. So there's a lot of theories on who this could be. I heard one theory that was Bruce Maddox. I'm not sure if I'm on board with this theory. I think that it's probably more likely Commodore or O, or someone else in the Zatnavash, or whatever you call it. Because I get that impression, because when the mom talked to Raj, she told her to go see Picard, and as soon as she saw Picard, that's where the Romulans found her and killed her. So it was like they were setting her up to be killed, and now Mom is telling Soji to just stay where she is, which also goes along with the whatever they call Vatzash. Lost it now. Also goes along with their plan, because they want her to stay there so they can find out what they want to know. They can use her to get more information. So that's what I think. That's what I'm going with. I think it's either Commodore or that other Romulan chick who was like impersonating Starfleet officer Rizzo or whatever. I don't remember. But anyway, one of those two. That's what I'm going with. Yeah. So let me talk about Bruce Maddox, because it's brought up in this episode where Picard goes out on the mission to find Bruce Maddox, and Raffi wants to go to the same place he might be for who knows why, whatever. And I'm of the mind that Bruce Maddox is a red herring. I think that they're going to find that he's dead, or insane, or in prison, or just like ignorant of what everything is going on, and that someone else is behind everything, and that Bruce Maddox has nothing to do with this. It's just my prediction, just my thought I'm throwing out there. I could be completely wrong, but I kind of get that impression. That he doesn't actually have anything to do with anything. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he is the one manipulating. Maybe he is the mom figure. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, that whole ending where they all came together on the ship was a bit... It was a bit silly. I mean, it wasn't terrible, again, but it was just kind of by the numbers. Oh, get the ragtag group together, and Picard says engage. Like, that was very fan servicey. I mean, obviously it is, and of course they're going to do this. I mean, they kind of have to do this. I don't begrudge them for doing this, but still, kind of fan servicey. But anyway, why the hell is Commodore O wearing sunglasses? That was so weird. She looks so out of place, and so many people were pointing this out, and I totally agree with all of them. Well, as soon as I saw them, I was like, what the hell? And they didn't even explain them. I was wondering if they would explain that maybe she has a sensitivity to the light, but then that got me thinking of Discovery, where it's been established that people from the Mirror Universe have a sensitivity to the light. Now, please don't make it so Commodore O is from the mirror universe. I would be so pissed off if they went that way. That would be such an unoriginal way to go, and especially just because they just did this with Discovery. And enough with the mirror universe. Leave it alone. I think that would be too easy of a, oh, that's why Starfleet is corrupt. The mirror universe is corrupting it. No, please do not do that, please. As far as Starfleet being corrupt, like, this is actually something a lot of people are like, oh, this is un-Star Trek-like, but it's actually very Star Trek-like. We've seen it in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. We saw it in the Pegasus, the Next Generation episode, and of course Conspiracy, Next Generation episode, and also Deep Space Nine, Homefront, Paradise Lost. So it's actually quite common. There's probably a lot more episodes that I'm not thinking of, but we've never seen it to this degree. But that makes it believable. Of all these attempts were close to infiltrating Starfleet and turning it corrupt, it's believable that one of these attempts would succeed. And to be fair, Starfleet isn't completely corrupt. I mean, you can kind of see their point of view, but there's obviously a conspiracy within the Starfleet that's working with the Zhat Vash, or whatever the hell they're called. Anyway, my rating for, I know I'm forgetting some stuff I said in my first recording, but whatever. I think this is all I gotta say. So my rating for The Beginning of the End out of 10 is going to be a 6. Good. It's good. Fine. It was a good episode. It was interesting. I'm still interested in Picard. I'm just not quite as hyped or excited as I was before. It's becoming, this episode is making it a bit more by the numbers. Yeah, this is a character who hates Picard. This is a character who's a loner and doesn't want anything to do with anyone. This is a character who's a bit of a nerd, and she's going on an adventure and she doesn't know what she's doing. And this is, you know, it's it's all getting a bit cliche. But there's a lot of shows that you have start with archetypes and then expand. So hopefully this will be the case with Picard. So I'm willing to stick it out. And as I said, it's not a terrible episode. Something so far I do think it is doing a better job than Discovery still of telling a serialized story and having interesting, intriguing mysteries and keeping you captivated. Like the whole mystery with Soji and all that was going on is still very interesting, and I'm still really hooked to see where they take this. So that's it for my review of Star Trek Picard Season 1, Episode 3. I will be back next week for another Picard episode. Also doing Expanse reviews. In a couple weeks I will return to the US where I will start doing a lot more Star Trek reviews and other shows. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all that. Thanks a lot for watching.